Hi, I'm Luke Gilfillan. Welcome to the Lounge with Luke Gilfillan. So, I don't really have a big plan for the episode today, but we're going to be going over another controversial incident that happened at a Oak Park board meeting because we can't go a month without those. Yippee, woohoo! So, essentially, this is by Stacy Sheridan at the New York, or not New York Times, the Wednesday Journal. But Stacy Sheridan should consider applying for a job at the New York Times. Phenomenal reporter. Oak Park Mayor Anan Abu-Taleb has apologized to a man named by a 4-3 vote to the Citizen Police Oversight Committee, which is a committee that I don't know much about the Citizen Police Oversight Committee, but I presume what they do is they look at police data and give like a citizen perspective on policing. After trustee R.T. Walker Petticoat named Jack Powers a racist and a misogynist during a discussion of his appointment at the February 3rd meeting of the village board. Anan Abu-Taleb apologized to Powers at the meeting after Walker Petticoat would not, and also subsequently in a public letter of apology. So I'm going to read that public letter of apology just to give like a context. Obviously, the only person that he has to apologize to is Jack Powers, but I think he's like apologizing on behalf of the board for giving this image of Oak Park to the world. Quote, "We are in this together. Trustee Artie would not apologize, but I will. On Monday night, I nominated Jack Powers to serve on the Citizen Police Oversight Commission, along with other candidates for various commissions. Trustee Artie and 2 other trustees spoke against Jack's appointment, but Artie elevated her attacks against Jack to unprecedented levels. She attacked Jack personally and publicly, labeling him racist and misogynistic. I'm deeply shocked by the demeaning and derogatory nature of her attack. Artie's comments against Jack are the kind of comments that people lose their jobs over. In some towns, board members who engage in such behavior have been publicly censored, and since Artie refused to apologize for her attacks and her accusations against Jack, I will. Jack, I am sorry. I am embarrassed and ashamed that you were attacked by a village board member. Artie's views and comments do not represent the views of the majority of the village board. We reject Artie's attacks and her labeling of any village residents. Such labeling and name-calling mimics the same behavior from the White House that many of us vehemently reject. We must do better. I believe that we get elected to serve our residents, not to attack them. As public servants, we must always strive to bring together, not divide them. And we must never make false accusations against our board colleagues, staff, or our residents for any reason. It is wrong to bully resident volunteers from the... This guy's a volunteer. Please keep that in mind, because she is berating and publicly tarnishing the reputation of a volunteer who's just here to try and help out the community. Resident volunteers from the board table or anywhere else in the village. Our desire is to leave the village in a better place than we found it. We are expected to be civil and respectful as we serve our community. We can't impact change alone. We are in this together, and how we treat one another matters. What we say matters, and what we do matters even more. Respectfully, Anan Abu-Taleb, Mayor of Oak Park." So, obviously, he hits spot on. This behavior was obviously disgusting. I mean, you can't just say that for no reason. I'll tell you what her reason was, and I can tell you it's not a good reason whatsoever. I think ever since the Susan Buchanan incident, I think the outside world is going to have this perception, already has this perception of Oak Park as the place where you go to be yelled at for... I mean, if you don't know what the Susan Buchanan incident was, go watch my video on it. I played a clip of the incident. She basically, yelled at a guy for being, a white male and having, an opinion on this thing, and she got a lot of backlash from, big news outlets in, around the country. So, that's the perception that a lot of people are going to have of Oak Park when they come to mind. They're going to think of someone berating someone for giving their opinion because of their race and gender. So this obviously perpetuates that, because there's really I'll tell you her reason, but there was no good reason for her to do this, and it's honestly extremely disrespectful. We talk a lot in Oak Park about like living in like the Oak Park bubble, and we gotta recognize our Oak Park bubble. She's right in the center of that bubble. Okay, this is not common discourse, as Mayor Taleb says. Like board members in other counties and around the country would lose their job and probably be uh, criticized vehemently by the local paper. Obviously, the Wednesday Journal doesn't do that because the Wednesday Journal typically doesn't do that. Um, but I think we have to recognize that this discourse where someone will say something and then the other person will say, "Oh, but you're a white male, so you can just stop talking," is not a thing that's going to be acceptable outside of this. Or not necessarily acceptable. It's not going to be the person who's seen as disrespectful is not the person that's disagreeing with you as is seen here, but it's going to be you for labeling them that way. So, she said, Walker Petticotla, I apologize if I'm pronouncing these wrong, referred to what she called a racist, misogynistic email. This is her reason for calling him a racist and misogynist. She's labeling this email racist and misogynist. This is an email that he sent to the village board on September 25th, 2019, saying Jack Powers, in his email to me, said, quote, "Public safety is a fundamental function of our board. If you do not understand this, you do not belong on the board." Those two sentences were her reasons for calling him a racist and a misogynist. She said, telling me, the only woman of color, that I do not belong on the board. No, he's telling you you don't belong on the board because you are a person of color. He's telling you that because he believes that public safety is a fundamental function of the Citizen Police Oversight Committee, or just the Oak Park Board generally. I mean, do you not think public safety is a responsibility of the board? I'm not understanding what your objection is and how he's a racist because he's saying that public safety is important, because public safety is important, okay? I'm not sure you can, like, go and talk to the people that get murdered, the families of the people that get murdered every day, like 20 miles from here, and have them all tell you, no, public safety is not important. Of course it's important, and saying that public safety is important is somehow racist and sexist is honestly despicable, especially when he's giving up time from his own life. I'm sure he's got a lot of things to do, and he's giving up time to help try and make the community a safer place. And you're just berating him in front of all of Oak Park for no good reason other than he said to you, public safety is a fundamental function of the board. If you do not understand this, you do not belong on the board. That's not a controversial statement, I think. That's not a controversial statement whatsoever. And it is miles from ever being objectively racist and misogynist. The email was sent following comments Walter Petticota made at a meeting last September regarding her view that Oak Park police emphasized racial profiling over public safety. You're going to need to show some evidence of that. And this was back in September. That was before the one incident we had where a disabled black man was beaten up by this guy because he walked up to the car thinking he was his Uber, and this guy acted horribly and beat the guy up for whatever reason. I don't know if the other guy was also, or had something, like maybe he was on drugs or something. I have no idea. But either way, that guy that beat up the other guy, he got arrested, and the complaint was that the officer that did the thing just like arrested the guy and didn't like talk to the people and talk to like the victim of the thing and talk to the people down the block for like more information. He sort of just like arrested the guy and walked it off with no, like, he didn't reach out to the victim as much as they would have done, which he probably should have. But that's not necessarily a evidence of racial profiling by the police. The Oak Park police have done a good job. I think there are incidents of like racial profiling around the country. I don't think the Oak Park Police Department is notoriously a part of that. And when you make comments, baseless comments that the Oak Park Police are somehow involved in systemic racial profiling, you're sort of berating the people that um, do so much work to protect you. I'm not like a giant fan of like saying police are good or police are always in the right and like always defending police, because I think when you do that, you do develop a culture that allows for police to like abuse their power if it's in like the greater good or whatever. For I'm not saying that this isn't happening. This is happening in America, but I think you do see in a lot of other countries like police abusing their power and like accepting bribes and all that. That's how police officers in India make more money than doctors. Um, so that was her justification for calling him a. Oh, one more thing. He said in the email, we have our share of homegrown crime and are adjacent to one of the most crime ridden and violent neighborhoods in the Midwest. She said, that is racist. I'm going to read you the quote that she thinks is racist again. We have our share of homegrown crime and are adjacent to one of the most crime ridden and violent areas in the Midwest. So racist. He's just stating basic crime facts that are available in publicly available studies. Yes, we are adjacent to one of the most violent neighborhoods in the Midwest. I'm not sure how that is in any way controversial, much less racist. And yeah, we're a very safe area, especially for probably one of the safest areas in the countries. But of course, every area has their own share of homegrown crime. She called the Petticoat person called on the board to do what's right by black folks and to appoint people who cared that police predominantly stop black people. What? She said, we've decided to appoint a racist and misogynist to the Police Oversight Commission. So that was the line that she said when she accused Jack Powers of being a racist. Trustee Dan Maroney offered his support for Powers as well as his disapproval for Walker Petticoat's language. And listen, if she just said this and she apologized like a day later, I probably wouldn't be talking about it, okay? I like to forgive people when they have mishaps. Of course, Susan Buchanan had that big one. I get it. It was late night. She was frustrated that the issue was not being addressed, that the issue had been postponed. But with this one, it's unexcusable. You have the opportunity to apologize for it, but you chose not to do that. The conversation went between Maroney and Powers. Maroney said Powers has the ability to do both impartial and objective while serving on the CPOC. She says, so does Tim Thomas, Walker Petticoat interjected. Maroney replied, this isn't about Tim Thomas. Quote, he was in line to get appointed. Why didn't you say anything of that about him, she asked. Maroney replied that this is the first I've heard of it. That's absolute crap, and you know that, Walker Petticoat says. That is an absolute crap. You know this person is a delight to be around. The mayor attempted to defuse the situation, but was shouted down in the process. Quote, your willingness to slander somebody is frankly despicable, Maroney told Walter Petticoat. Exactly. I don't know how someone can just accuse like a person who's volunteering their time to try and help out the community of being a racist and sexist for pointing out that yes, we do live next to a crime-ridden area, and yes, public safety is important. Honestly, if those are like the best two examples that you can come up with someone that's like, if those are the best two, you know what? It's fine. Trustee Dino Andrews and Jim Taglia, as well as Mayor Abu Taleb, joined Maroney in voting to appoint Powers. Trustees Susan Buchanan and Simone Boutet joined Walker Petticoat in voting against the appointment. Powers, who was not present at the February 3rd meeting but watched online, said he did not believe Petticoat was qualified to assess his character. Spot on. If she's talked to this guy in emails, and she's already going to assume that he's a sexist and rate. Where was that? Where even if you drew like 33 lines that don't even make sense, I'm not sure how she got sexist from those two emails he sent her saying public safety is important and we live next to a crime-ridden area. I'm not sure how you got sexist from that, but I'm not sure that she is in any way interested in being able to justify her claims. I think she just wants to shout out those claims to get more points with her self. I guess she thinks it's good for her character to call other people racist and sexist. My main thought is, quote from Powers, I've never met that trustee. He has never met her. He has never met her. She has never spoken to him. She's telling this entire board in front of Oak Park that this guy's a racist and sexist. She's never met her, and she's emailed him what, like 3 times, and the most egregious things that she could come up with was public safety was important and we live next to a crime-ridden area. We do. That's just a fact, and public safety is important, okay? I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that thinks differently, other than this person, apparently. Powers sent his email after reading the comments Walter Pedicola made about public safety and racial profiling in the Wednesday Journal. All I did was very factually state the obvious, he said. I didn't refer to any person or group. I didn't impugn anyone, and that was that. He's spot on with this. He didn't believe his email was racist and misogynistic because it wasn't. He didn't have to believe that. I think that the Wednesday Journal could take a stand here and say, I don't know how you could get from this. I would bet that the Wednesday Journal has written out things that were very, very, very similar, if not exactly the same, from those 2 sentences, or those 4 sentences that I read you, and it was never called racist or misogynistic. I don't get where you get misogynistic from, at all. I was being neither of those things, and that's not how I am in life either, he said. Powers said he wasn't upset that Walter Pedicola attributed the email to him at the February 3rd meeting, but he took issue with it being posted on social media. Putting that email on Facebook was questionable at best. First off, it's an invasion of, well, it was a publicly sent email, but you shouldn't just be posting every email you get onto the internet. It's just not something to do. Especially an email as controversial as that, or as non-controversial as that. Should Walter Pedicola reach out to him now? Walter Powers said he would probably be open to... No, don't speak with her. You're not going to get anything out of speaking with her. She's going to stand by her position. She's going to call you a racist and a misogynist without evidence, and you shouldn't put yourself through that. She's not interested in having a actual discussion with you. If she was, then she would say so. She wouldn't just call you a racist and misogynist for stating that we live next to a crime-ridden area. That's not in any way... I think she's badly motivated. I think she's willing to slander people in the highest order. I think that calling someone a racist and misogynist is one of the worst things that you can call someone in American public life. Not like privately, if you call someone like a slur or something, that's obviously worse than calling someone a racist and misogynist. But publicly, racist and misogynist would probably be worse than that. In the aftermath of the meeting, Abu Taleb said it was inappropriate for elected officials to verbally attack citizens at the board table. The guy isn't even an official or elected, and there's really no reason to attack him, as he rightly points out. We already read his letter. Anand stated he took no issues with trustees opposing the people he appoints to commissions, but the method in which Walker Pedicola expressed her opposition to Powers bothered him. Well, of course it did. Hopefully it did. It's in the manner that she... Oh, I might have forgotten to mention, in case you don't know, Anand Abu Taleb is a Palestinian man, and that's only relevant in the sense that he's not, like... he's less likely to be a brutal racist. I don't know. Prior to appointing Powers, Abu Taleb met with him to discuss the committee, but did not speak with him directly about policing. Abu Taleb believes Powers to be very qualified for the CPOC. He said, "Here's a guy who wants to serve the community, volunteer his time," he said. Beyond that, Abu Taleb didn't know what else motivated Powers to go after a spot on the committee. "I don't know what his motivations are, any more than I know what anyone else's motivations are," Adnan Abu Taleb said. "But I do know that he has grandchildren, and they hear that about him. They start wondering, is my grandpa a racist? We're in a small community. I don't think we need to be doing that to each other." And yeah, you're standing him not only in the public life, but in his personal life. And Abu brings up a good point there. Taleb's brought up a good point there. Abu Taleb said that Walter Petticoat didn't contact him to discuss the appointment when she saw Powers' names on the meeting agenda. "She's never picked up the phone to call me and say, 'Hey, Anand, I have a problem with this guy.' Not once," he said. Abu Taleb felt like his own motivations were also under fire as he made the appointment when Walter Petticoat spoke against Powers in the meeting. Yeah, I mean, if you're accusing an appointee of being a racist and misogynist, you're accusing the guy who appointed him of appointing a racist and misogynist, which is not a accusation to take lightly. She was basically questioning my motivation on why I'm appointing a racist in her mind to the commission for the village. "You're questioning my motivation. Don't ever do that. You cannot question my judgment. You can question my judgment, absolutely." Abu Taleb would have preferred Walker Petticoat reach out to him, discuss her concerns with Powers instead of airing her grievances at the board table. "I'm your colleague," he said. "Call me. You can say, I don't like this guy because his views don't align with mine, and I feel we could have someone of color," he said. "But when you start labeling people, calling them racist, how does she know? How does she know what's in people's hearts?" And spot on there. The comment section is looking mostly in support of this Jack Power guy. You see a few ones that are in favor of the Petticoat. But either way, this went on for a long time. Maybe I'll... No. Thank you so much for watching, and I am really glad you watched this one. I think this was one of our most substantive episodes. I'm just really mad that this happened, and this citizen guy who just wants to volunteer his time is getting attacked as a racist on the local stage. So, thank you so much for watching. Lunch with the Gilfillan, best podcast ever.